Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Hopefully, my internet loves me. Hopefully, Facebook loves me. So we can do all of this together. Hey guys, happy Thursday. Welcome IG, welcome Facebook. Dr. S here. So excited to get back into our conversation about the Real Housewives of the Bible. So, as we are doing this, getting our little intro and welcome, hello again. Be sure to tag somebody, share this video. The more, the merrier. Love to hear from you guys. As you are popping on, be sure to say hey so I can say hey back. And also, let me know if you remember who we've talked about so far. And let me know who you actually learned something like oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that was interesting. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Dr. S here, dropping nuggets you didn't know you needed. And as always, it is my hope and prayer that they will help you be your best you. Can y'all believe it's March? Am I the only one oh my gosh, I feel like we just celebrated New Year's and it's the third month of the year already. It's been a crazy, interesting, exciting year. Happy to be alive. As you all know, I've been trying to keep these down to 30-ish minutes. So I won't do a whole lot of intro, but again, if you guys are just joining, be sure to say hello. Be sure to tag somebody in these videos, whether you're on IG or Facebook, and share this video. Maybe somebody who I don't know will see it and they'll come and have a conversation with us as well. A few quick things before I get started. Just want to remind you all that Love Letters to Our Sons is still available at drshalay.com/shop. People have just been so supportive with getting copies for their sons, grandsons, co-workers, nephews, godsons, all of the people. So thank you to everyone who has purchased their copy so far. And I have many, many more. So if you would like to get your copy, just hit me up and let me know. The other thing that I want to mention is that the third annual Roar Like a Lioness Women's Conference is fast approaching. Again, this year is already speeding by. So that's going to be April the 15th here in St. Louis. But here's the thing. You don't have to be local to come. I feel like, and of course I'm biased, I feel like it's worth a drive. I feel like it's worth a plane ride. I feel like, however you need to get here. You might not live, in St. Louis. You might not live just over the river in Illinois. But if you feel like you've just been weighed down by life and that you've picked up things that do not belong to you, then I encourage you to make your way to Fairview Heights on Saturday, April the 15th. To join us for Roar Like a Lioness. The theme this year is baggage claim. Girl, get your bag. And I am super excited about what the Lord is going to deliver through the phenomenal speakers that will be there that day. So, enough about that. Let's get into the lesson. And again, if you're just popping on, say hey, tag, share, and tell me if you've heard or watched the replays of the other episodes in this series so far, and who you remember us talking about, and what you learned. So tonight, I need to have a little drum roll. Tonight we are going to be talking about yet another housewife from the Bible. I'm telling you, the Bible is juicy. It's good stuff. And I hope in these lessons it's helping you learn something you didn't know, or just excite you about reading the Bible and finding out about all of the drama that happened back in the day. So if you have not been keeping up with us, I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel and watch the past 3. I think this is the 4th one. The past few replays, and check out. So we've talked about Miriam. That was the first housewife we discussed. Then we talked about Orpah, little known sister-in-law of Ruth. And last week we talked about Rebecca. So we are getting on to our 4th housewife. So this week I want to talk about Abigail. Now, my Bible scholars, Bible readers, you all might know that name right off top. But if you don't, it's okay. That's why we're all here. So Abigail eventually became the wife of David, King David. But before she was his bride, she was actually married to a man named Nabal, Nabal, Nabal. So everything that I'm going to be sharing with you about her and some takeaways that we can get from her story, you will find in 1 Samuel chapter 25. So as I mentioned, Abigail was the wife of Nabal. And actually, both in the Bible and when you read up on her, she is the only woman in the Old Testament, or as Bible scholars call it, the Hebrew Bible, described as intelligent and beautiful. It says that in 1 Samuel verse 3. So just a little backstory before I get into what I took away from her story is Abigail married to Nabal. Nabal apparently is this wealthy man. He owns lots of sheep and herds and, all of this stuff. And David, before he is king, is running from Saul and goes to Nabal and says, hey, I'm running from Saul. My men are hungry. When I was out in the wilderness, I helped to protect your shepherds, to keep enemies at bay, whatever. And so basically, because I did this kind thing for you, even though you maybe didn't know that directly, I am in turn asking for this favor. I'm asking you to be gracious towards me and my men. And Nabal, whose name basically means boorish and mean, is like, no, I don't know nothing about that. No, I'm not taking care of y'all. And offends David through his response. And so y'all know David. Y'all know how David rolls. David has killed Goliath and slew a lion and a bear and all of these things. So he does not take kindly to that. So he leaves, but in his leaving, some of the servants of the household hear him and hear his frustration and hear what he's talking about doing, and word gets back to Abigail. So that's the first thing I want to mention about Abigail is a listener. She heeds when people come to her. So in 1 Samuel, Lord, I just realized something. All in my notes, I wrote Genesis for whatever reason. But in 1 Samuel 25, verse 14, it says, meanwhile, one of Nabal's servants went to Abigail and told her, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but he screamed insults at them, and the servant goes on and on and on. But in this, the servant felt comfortable coming to Abigail, and not only did the servant feel comfortable coming to Abigail, Abigail listened. Now, depending on how much you read the Bible, you know that there is this hierarchy, obviously, between the master's wife and the servants. She didn't have to listen. She could have been like, oh, whatever, you in grown folks' business, you're eavesdropping, what? No, get from before me. She could have been as rude as her husband, but she actually listened to what the servant had to say. And to me, that just showed her humility and her grace. She wasn't above listening to someone who technically was beneath her. And hearing what they had to say, and hearing how it could affect her household. Like, the servant was like, hey, so David is like really, really upset because the master did X, Y, and Z. And she used wisdom to not only listen to the servant, but recognize that what the servant was sharing could potentially have detrimental impact on her family. So one thing I feel like we can take away from Abigail, the story of Abigail, is that she's humble and she's a listener. She respects those who are in her household. So the next thing, thank you. So the next thing I think we can learn from Abigail is that she is an interventionist. That's a hard word to say. Interventionist. And she's really the ultimate intercessor. So listen. So the servants come to her, shared what they overheard. And then it goes on to say in 1 Samuel 25, verses 18, and then I'm going to read 23 and 24. Abigail, and I'm reading out the New Living Translation. Abigail wasted no time. She quickly gathered 200 loaves of bread, 2 wineskins full of wine, 5 sheep that had been slaughtered, nearly a bushel of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisin, and 200 fig cakes. She packed them on a donkey, and it says some more stuff. And then verse 23 picks up, when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed low before him. She fell at his feet and said, I accept all the blame for this matter, my lord. Please listen to what I have to say. Now, mind you, the servant has come to her, told her what went down, and in her, again, her wisdom, her quickness, she intervenes, hence the interventionist, to say, listen, this is not something I need to pray about, fast about, figure out. I need to take action now to prevent bloodshed and to prevent my household being adversely affected by the actions of my husband. So she wasted no time. She gathered all of this stuff, and I'm like, when I started reading this, I'm like, how you just happen to have 200 loaves of bread and 5 sheep ready and all this grain and raisins and fig cakes to get to David so quickly? And in her intercession, which means to stand in the gap, right? It's not just a prayer. She stood in the gap for her household because she moved quickly. She acted on their behalf, and she went before David. And when she did it, again, with quickness, she got down off her donkey. She humbled herself. She lowered herself and bowed before him, fell at his feet, and took complete responsibility. From our understanding, the way the Bible reads, she wasn't even there. She didn't even know this happened because the servant had to come tell her. But she was like, I accept the blame. Charge it to me, not to my husband, not to my household. Please listen to what I have to say. And if you read on in 1 Samuel 25, after verses 24, you'll see where she is just like going on and on and on, making intercession, saying how sorry she is and being apologetic for her household. And even as a part of this, she does something interesting that scholars have noted, and now to some extent consider her a prophetess, because one of the things that she said in this apology to David is, the Lord will surely reward you with a lasting dynasty, for you are fighting the Lord's battles. That's 1 Samuel 25:28b. And then verse 30 says, when the Lord has done all he promised and has made you leader of Israel. So when this is happening, David is just David. David is still shepherd warrior working for Saul David. He's not king. We know that he's anointed. He was anointed when he was 17. I don't exactly know where in that process this is as far as his type, how old he is, but he's not king yet. But she is saying, the Lord will surely reward you with a lasting dynasty, which implies that his lineage, his children, his name will go on and on and on. And that the Lord, whatever the Lord has promised, because I don't know if word has spread that Samuel has anointed David, but she says, when the Lord has done all he promised and has made you leader of Israel. So she is prophesying to him. So she's a good listener. She's an intercessor. And now we see her being a prophet to this man who is in the midst of considering killing all of the people. But she is saying all this to him out of a good and genuine and what I presume to be pure heart. So you with me? I know it's kind of quiet on IG and Facebook. And again, hopefully Facebook is not glitching and doing all the extra stuff. And again, if you're watching, hey Facebook, be sure to say hey so I can say hey back. So these are what we're learning about Abigail so far. So then what else can we take away from Abigail? She has listened to her servant. She has stood in the gap and interceded on behalf of her household. She has prophesied. Hey, Tracy. She has prophesied to the man of God. And then what happens? What else can we take away from her? Because of her wisdom, because of her speedy actions, it kind of comes full circle, because now we hear or read that she is listened to. So she listened, she was the listener, and now she's being listened to. Because in all that she says to David, he then turns around and says to her, I'm picking up in verse 32. It says, David replied to Abigail, praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who has sent you to meet me today. Thank God for your good sense. I love the Bible when it's practical. Thank God for your good sense. Bless you for keeping me from murder and from carrying out vengeance with my own hands. For I swear by the Lord, the God of Israel, who has kept me from hurting you, that if you had not hurried out to meet me today, not one of Nabal's men would still be alive tomorrow morning. Now, again, let's put this in perspective. Abigail is the mistress of the house, in the sense that she is married to the master Nabal. Her servant, who she doesn't have to listen to, comes to her, shares what was overheard. She makes this quick work to go about and try to rectify the situation with David, a man of war. And in her humility, she comes to him, petitioning him, and he listens to her. He number one, he's a man. Number two, he's a man of war. Number three, there's absolutely no reason why he has to listen to her. But yet he does. She said, oh, that's come like full circle. She listened to somebody she didn't necessarily have to listen to. And David definitely didn't have to listen to her at all. For all, he could have took the stuff she brought and still killed all the people. But he was like, you know what? Because you're making sense. Because you are standing in the gap. Because you are creating this intervention, because you are helping out the people. You know what? Bless you. Bless you for keeping me from making a mistake. He listened to her, and she ended up being the beneficiary in multiple ways, which we'll get to, of her wisdom and her quick action. I love that. So before I get to my next point, I encourage us, as you're listening, as you're watching the replay, who are some people who maybe have tried to share things with you and you felt like you didn't need to listen? Was it because they were someone who were they were younger than you. Maybe you felt like they lacked experience in a particular area. Maybe you felt like they didn't have the education that you thought they should have. Maybe they are of a race or gender that you think, well, you can't really relate. You can't really tell me. What would happen if you listen? Like, if that person is coming in sincerity, in genuineness, in the power of God, with the anointing of God, if that person comes to you and they are saying something that could help you, that could benefit you in some way, and you haven't been listening, what would happen if you did? How might that in turn come full circle for you when you are presented with a situation and you are in a place where now you're on the other side and this person you're trying to talk to doesn't have to listen to you. Maybe they feel like you're too young. Maybe they feel like you don't have the experience. What would happen if you show grace to the person who's trying to talk to you? Then maybe the person you're trying to talk to will show you that same kind of grace. I just love that. Like, Abigail is not a person I've ever spent a whole lot of time researching, reading about, but she was definitely one of the people that when I was thinking about this series, The Real Housewives of the Bible, like, she popped to my mind. She came to mind. And I think that's a valuable lesson to learn from her is, again, this full circle nature of listening and being respectful of people you might not. I know we say stuff like, we are no respecter of persons and those kind of things, but we are. I am. Maybe y'all not. I am. What if a person who was experiencing homelessness came up to me and said, I have a word for you from the Lord, or just, can I talk to you for a minute? Can I share something with you? Would I be receptive? Would I hear that? Would I give that the same weight if my pastor came up or my homegirl came up? Would I listen to that in the same way? Would I heed what they had to say in the same way? And then, like I said, conversely, if I went to, the president, is he going to listen to me like he would his advisor? Probably not. But we can learn something. Hey, Jen, how are you? We can learn something from Abigail and Abigail's situations. I just wanted to just really, really highlight that because that really spoke to me when I was preparing for this. So one more thing I would like us to take away from this story of Abigail, and if you're just popping on with us, I encourage you to watch the replay either here on Facebook, IG, or YouTube. You got all kind of options to watch it. So Abigail has listened to her servant. She's been quick to intervene. She goes and humbles herself before David. He receives her well, as far as saying thank you for, checking me and let me not become, any more extra than I need to. But here's the thing though. David received her well, but her husband, who she did this for, did not. So if you read on down, still in 1 Samuel 25, she comes back, and this is just an aside. David asked Nabal to spare food for him and his men. Nabal said no. But when Abigail comes back from doing all this and her husband has not missed her at all, evidently, she comes back and he's partying. He's drunk. He's feasting. He's doing all this stuff, but you ain't have no food to share with David. Anyway, so he's drunk. So in her wisdom, she's like, I'm not even going to say anything tonight. I'll talk to him in the morning. So in verse 37, it says, in the morning when Nabal was sober, his wife told him what had happened. As a result, he had a stroke and he lay paralyzed on his bed like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck him and he died. Now, y'all, I really want to talk about Nabal, but we're focusing on the Real Housewives right now. She does this to benefit him, his household, his livestock, all of this. And his response to her intercession was that he had a stroke. Like, I'm assuming the stress, the embarrassment, being overwhelmed, can't believe it, whatever. He had a stroke. He's paralyzed. And then eventually, 10 days later, the Lord just takes him on out of here. What is a takeaway from this? Oh my gosh. I was like, woo! Despite everything that she did to try to benefit this man and her household, she was still unappreciated by those who were closest to her. In her case, her husband. What I took from this is, some people, I don't care how close they are to you, I don't care what you do to try to have their back, how you try to stand in the gap, some people just not going to appreciate your help. So much so that your relationship with them may die. Now, it might not be a physical, literal death like Nabal, but it might be an emotional death. It might be a physical separation. It might be we don't hang tough like we did anymore. It might be like, I thought you was my girl. I thought you was my boy. I thought you was my homie. I thought you was my ace. I thought I was too. That's why I did X, Y, and Z. But then when you do it, they feel some kind of way about it. Their reaction to it is not what is expected, right? I'm sure Abigail was like, dude, you was about to get us killed because of your stubbornness, because of your hard heart, because of your meanness. As your wife, as your helpmeet, as your partner, I did what I thought was best to take care of our family, and this is how you feel about it? You get so upset you have a stroke, you're paralyzed, and the Lord takes you out? In the same way, some of us might feel like that. Like we've been an Abigail to some people in our lives. Whether we were praying, whether we helped financially, whether, we were there when they called at 2 a.m. to listen, whatever the case may be, we may feel like we have been that person who intervened, that person who interceded, that person who had that other person's back. And they may not have recognized it right away. We might not have told them right away. But when we did share it with them, their reaction was not, bless you, like David. Woo! You just saved me from wrecking all of the things. Their reaction wasn't that. Their reaction was, I can't believe you told people my business. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe what you... That was not expected. In the same way, I'm sure Nabal's reaction to Abigail was not what she expected. Nevertheless, though, even though Nabal did not respond in the way that she perhaps would have liked or would have expected, it still ended up working out for her because when David found out that Nabal had passed away, he said, go get her. Bring her hither. Bring her to me. And ended up marrying her. Now, beyond this story, as far as, what happened to Abigail, we don't know. We do know, obviously, like as I just mentioned, she did marry David. She did have a son, David's second son, actually. depending on which version you read. In some translations it says Chilean, and other translation says Daniel. She had a son. He did not go to the throne. That's whole nother. I had to research that too. He was not one who ever made it to the throne, but she made it to the king's household, and she was in favor with him. And then we don't hear about Abigail anymore. So her story pretty much takes up just 1 Samuel 25. So go check her out. And then as you're reading, let me know, what do you pull from it? Do you pull similar things, that she was a listener, that she was an interventionist, that she was an intercessor, that she was a prophet, that she in turn was listened to? And then sometimes, unfortunately, like many of us, she was also unappreciated. The things that she did was unappreciated. So that's my lesson for tonight on the Real Housewives of the Bible. We have one more formal Real Housewives, and that's going to be in 2 weeks. And y'all hit me up and let me know who you think I'm going to talk about. It's already ruminating. And then this month actually has an extra Thursday in it. So I will be doing a bonus word of mouth, the Real Housewives of the Bible kind of, bonus edition with a special guest on the 30th. So I'll be back on the 16th for my regular Real Housewives of the Bible, and then I'll be back on the 30th with a special edition. So again, if you have missed any of the other 3 that we've done so far, if you can find it on Facebook or IG, go for it. Or to make it easy, you can check out my YouTube channel. Just search Dr. Sha-Lai, and you can watch there. And also, if you haven't already ordered your copy of Love Letters to Our Sons, check that out. Again, it is for any age male. Says sons, but as I have started saying, every man is somebody's son, and all of our sons need to know and be reminded that they are loved and that they deserve love. So get your copy for just any man, regardless of his age, regardless of his situation, circumstance, just to love on him a little bit. Our men deserve that. And then if you're in the, St. Louis, East St. Louis, Belleville, Fairview Heights, Cahokia, trying to think of everything that's over there on the other side of the river, please join us for Roar Like a Lioness Women's Conference on April the 15th. The deadline to register is a couple of deadlines. The deadline to register, if you want your lunch included, is April 1st. You can pay the day of if you so like. But lunch is always included in the, price when you register by that cutoff. So if you would like your lunch included, thank you so much. If you would like your lunch included, be sure to register by April 1st. Also, we have new t-shirts this year. We've had t-shirts the past 2 years. We will have a t-shirt again, but it is different. It's going to have our this theme on it. And so if you want to get that, I think that's the last day to put that on your registration is maybe like March 24th, to ensure that we have time to get it ready and that it'll be available on the 15th. So I love you guys. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Again, share this video, tag somebody if you have learned anything tonight or in any of the other lessons. Then let the whole world know about it. So I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I love you guys. Be blessed. Dr. S, I got you. All right, I love you guys. Be blessed. Dr. S.